why are local news still important? Why do they need funding?
Local news is where most people get their news and information that's most relevant to their lives. How does their local government function? What do they need to know about their local school, about whatever may be happening in the places where they live? So if they're not able to get that information and they're only able to get a national perspective, that's not particularly relevant to how they need to get the information they need to make the decisions in their daily lives.
And Facebook recently launched an algorithm that actually kind of puts the local news at the top of the newsfeed of all the users and prioritizes them over everything else that's going on in the world. Why is Facebook launching this algorithm now when we are increasingly trying to go more global and know more about what's going on, in remote villages on the other side of the world?
Local's always been important. We do live in an increasingly global society where we have access to information and people and platforms that help us see what's happening all around the world, but that hasn't made our local context any less important. I think maybe it's just been de-emphasized in the sort of pop culture conversations about whether local is important or not. But I think through elections and there's so much in our life that is so important about local that maybe just doesn't get talked about as much in the media.
My final question, actually, you mentioned about the daily challenges of small local media sites that often get overlooked and people actually don't really know much about them. Could you maybe a couple of words talk about that?
Yeah, sure. It's really, in a lot of ways, it's really mundane stuff. It's like if you have a very small local newsroom, you're one or two people, you may be a journal. In my experience, a lot of the sites that I worked with were journalists who came from a newspaper, were laid off, started their own site in their own community. They are journalists by training. They don't have business development skills, so they just want to go out there and be journalists, but they don't have the team they don't have a colleague or a publishing partner who can be the business person on the team, so they have to juggle. Today I'm going to be a journalist, tomorrow I'm going to do the business development. So it's a lot of it is just capacity. A lot of it is just a lack of capacity because these newsrooms are very small and there are a lot of roles that they have to play, a lot of hats they have to wear.
And would you say that from a funder's perspective, would you also consider providing some consultancy support in that way?
Yeah, I think coaching is very, very important when it comes to working with newsrooms, and our experience has been it's often more valuable to give them that kind of consulting and coaching support than it is to give grants, actually. Everybody's just trying to do their job, trying to do the best they can, and sometimes they need to call somebody up and say, hey, I got this letter from a lawyer, what do I do with it? Or, hey, I heard about this new tool, should I be using it? So that kind of coaching is absolutely invaluable for small sites.